16:49. Lucy Malice from Ole Swimming, the winner of the 1,000 the other night and the 500. 16:29 is her best time in lane 5. Lane 4 is Claire Defoe of Nova. She's 16:20. Santa Peterson, her teammate from Nova, 16:33 is her entry time. 17:00 for lane 2 is Emma McNulty out of Long Island. And Ole Swimming has Allison Danko, who is right there in lane 1. She's entered in a 17:06. So kind of a 46-second spread, which we don't see much of. And it's
yeah, that's unusual. The meet's a lot smaller this year, so we're seeing a little bit of that, but we'll see what happens to them. But another thing too is a lot of these kids have not been racing for a long time, and with COVID and everything, so we'll see how that pans out for them.
That's a very good point, and we know that it's very strategic, this race. 66 lengths of the pool, so you go down and back there 33 times. And the other night, the ladies did the 1,000 when the men did the men did the 1650 when the ladies did the 1,000, and today they flip-flop it, so the men will follow these girls with a 40-length race instead of a 66-length race.
And Elmbrook, back in the 50 fly, had 2 swimmers in the top heat and then another swimmer in the console heat, so they scored a lot of points in the 50 fly. And don't have the total scores, but my guess is that they haven't taken over the lead. They're very close to Nova. Nova now has three swimmers in this heat, and so the difference between a distance event that's time finals and the prelims finals event, in this event right here, if a swimmer does not swim fast enough, they can get bumped out of the top 8 and out of the medals by a swimmer if they swam earlier. So
they could move completely out of the points if they end up not in the top 24, but that's unlikely if you're seated in the top 8. The fastest 3 swimmers this morning, third was Grace Drabo from Ozaki, and she was 17:11.5. Skylar Bruner from Hilton Head was 17:10.3, and the fastest swimmer from Rockville, Montgomery, another 15-year-old, was 16:53, Madison Smith. So those girls, I mean, obviously would fall into the 5th and 6th places here had they done them before. But yeah, it'll be interesting. You're right. Distance swimming, as we talked about the other night, one of the tougher events to really keep going over the last 12 months. But we've got a lot of creative and intelligent and passionate coaches in the NCSA.
Absolutely. In fact, if you watch the bottom of your screen, you can see the coaches at the very bottom. So you see that bear arm there spinning and moving them. You're not going to see a lot of coaches that are going to be waving and going crazy this early in the race. What you'll watch, though, is that usually you'll see an arm up and still, and that means that the swimmer is on pace. And this is all about pace. And, like right now we have Lucy Malice out. She's holding 29.7 in that last 50. They're looking for these girls to go even pacing throughout. You don't want to see, a 29, a 31, a 29. You don't want to be bouncing back and forth. You also don't want to see the splits going slower. So while some of the swimmers may be waving like crazy, you see that red arm at the bottom. That's just straight up, doing good. Hang in there, hold on to your pace.
Well, that's Coach Dave Ferris, long-time supporter here at the NCSA. And he has Emma McNulty in lane 2. Doesn't want her to get too crazy too early. He's had a number of great distance swimmers of all types through the years here in these hallowed halls that Harris Rosen built. Well, he rebuilt. Well, he's really, put a lot into it. And
he has.
And when you look around the pool, and the other thing we really noticed, Bill, we were talking about the Speedo presence. What we've had here from the Speedo company year after year is just great, unending support of our efforts in the NCSA. Both this meet, the age group meet, the summer meet. Speedo's been right there with us all along.
They really have. And, one of the great things about the NCSA is not only do we put on these meets, but our organization is very unique in that this isn't a profit center for us. As we're a bunch of volunteer coaches, and the money that we raise year after year, we take and we pool that money and we create other opportunities for swimmers. We've taken swimmers to Japan, Ireland a couple of times. We've taken them to Hawaii and things like that. We take all-star teams and they're selected off of performance, So these swimmers that are high school age are getting a real taste for what it's like to swim in a selection meet. And this organization has probably spent close to $1 million in doing that. And as part of that process, we have outfitting, and Speedo has been very generous in their sponsorship, not only for the paying for the awards and the backpacks and the different things like that, but also for outfitting our select teams. And that's been huge for us. It's a great perk for these kids, and it really gives them that feeling like, hey, I'm on a national team and I'm going to go compete. So,
well, I agree, and I was lucky enough to be selected and have some swimmers in one of our first Ireland trips, and I've talked to several of the coaches that have traveled all over, and certainly the camps. We've had great camps, and you're right, Speedo's been there, and as we watch these girls turn at the 500, there's Lucy Malice, 4:53.88, 29.67.
Claire Defoe with those 29 minutes.
And look, Claire is kind of taking a little different tact. I mean, I'm thinking that, hey, you've gone the 500 and 1,000 out ahead of Lucy, and she's come back on you. Maybe this is a little longer race. She might be thinking, well, maybe I'll try a little bit of her own medicine. We'll have to see. I'm not betting against Lucy Bayless. The way she's been swimming this meet and knowing the kind of training that they do at Ole.
Now, this is really interesting because Lucy, right at the 500, 500 is virtually the first third of the race.
Right.
And all of a sudden, Lucy throws down a 29.0, 6 tenths faster. Yep. The girls were catching up to her. She just puts a little more energy in that swim, throws the turns a little bit faster, and now she's starting to get some distance.
Well, many of us have coached that way, where you look at that mile and you break it into the thirds, or maybe 3 550. Some people say, hey, at lap 22, I want you to pick it up. But there she is again with a 29 low, 29.37. The other girls are 29.5 and 29.7. So she is adding to her lead as we speak. And there was something you said, Bill, that I think is very important to note. And Bob Gillette started us out this way, and we talked about him and his legend, and if you want to know more about him, go to our website, and we have a little tribute page to him. You can learn about what he did and the philosophy and why we are a not-for-profit group of volunteers as opposed to many of the other meets that are run not only in this state, but certainly here and otherwhere, where it's people raising funds either for their own team or for their own pocket or for some cause other than the way I like to think, or altruistic, because it is. I mean,
most of the time it is. You're right.
Well, realistically, what we're doing is we do pour that money back into the kids, and we have these various trips and camps, and I think it's just a tremendous reflection on the values that Bob left for us.
I totally agree, and it's one of the reasons that drew me to this meet, our club, and drew me personally to be active and be a volunteer, and to volunteer to be the meet director for the age group meet. A little easier meet when Kevin comes in the week before, sets everything up, sets the table for me. But
nonetheless, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and whether you're Kevin or whether you're Dan Jacobs or Dan Hafner or certainly Coop, he's trying to coach his team, and he's also filling the water. I was glad to see some of the young coaches in there putting the water in and doing the thing, because it's a team event. We're a family, the NCSA family, and that's really, my kids have said, man, this is not like the other meets, not like the meets we go to, and we talked about it being just shared values. That the team is so important, the relays are so important. The learning is so important. It's not just about how fast you're 55.
Oh, absolutely. I did the camp we had in Colorado Springs. I was the head coach, and I was blown away. I've done national select camps for USA Swimming, and that was the toughest camp. But toughest, I mean, we initially had grit. Yeah, they did. We were going to have just the warrior of the meet. The guy, the one swimmer that worked so hard. We ended up having 9. We had to have 3 men and 3 women, and then we had 3 honorable mentions. So Lucy Malice, it was interesting at the 500. She dropped down to 29.0, broke that link between her and Claire Defoe, and now she's slipping back up into the 29.4. She's still outsplitting these girls by about a tenth, and that is a slow death for them because every 50 is 1/10, and she has broken the link between the two. It's going to be very difficult for those girls to catch up, short of Lucy Malice, I think, running into some trouble and hitting the wall, which we've seen no evidence of that this week.
Not yet, no, not this week. It is a long week, but when you prepare, and I know when talking to Jeff Cooper and his brother, certainly Adam Cooper, they got a great coaching staff. Certainly, their entire staff is first rate, and but they said that they were really broken down. And they came to a meet that Kevin's place hosted up at Elkhart,
right.
and he said, boy, we just got to stay the course. Our distance events were way off in December, and we were looking at, but by being persistent and sticking with your values and holding on to what's most important, he said, don't worry, we'll be there, and boy, this has been a breakout year for Ole swimming without question.
It absolutely has. Jeff Cooper's a good friend of both of ours, and Ole swimming out of Oakland, Michigan, Rochester, Michigan area. About 5 years ago, Jeff was really unhappy with the direction of the program and made a lot of changes and kind of just refocused his coaching staff and actually took some pressure off of his staff, some of his coaches, by taking some of their responsibilities away. But he slowly built this program up. And, I actually talked to him yesterday about this. I mean, how awesome it is to have a long-term plan like that and to see it come to fruition like this. They've just been spectacular.
Let's check this 50. This is the first 50 of the third 500, and she drops again from a 29.5 to a 29.17. She was 9:48.00 on her feet at the 1,000, which is a pretty good 1,000 straight. A lot of college coaches would be very happy to have that in their program. You're looking at the women's NC2As, and our top female swimmers can already play in that game.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Already. Yep. And they're just 15, 16, 17 years old. So Lucy appears to us to be making this jump again. She's 29.3 there. So, every time you keep your 50 under 30.
Absolutely. And that's a challenge. I mean, how many girls cannot go under 5 minutes, can't do it 10 times? She's doing it 33 times. So, it's really interesting how she's doing that. So we're going to do a quick errand here real quick, but I'll come back to you.
That's when you're the meet director of a big event that's coming up. You're excused. Have no fear. Well, I'm going to watch a little bit more of this race. Lucy's lead now. She's 29.6. Is just 4 seconds over Claire Defoe. And Claire Defoe, an outstanding swimmer in her own right. I know that Nova, with their long history and the transition into their new coaching regime, has been just really positive from everything we've heard on the deck here and seen how they interact. The idea that Claire Defoe's future is still well ahead of her. She's had some great racing, and this one's not over yet. They're 29.4 and 29.5, still about a 4-second difference. And we're looking forward to seeing more and more of these young ladies move on into our national open water distance opportunities. Not every athlete is eager to jump into those questionable, scary kind of unknown waters, but once they do, generally most of them really kind of like it. And I've had a lot of swimmers through the years who have not really been eager to go and swim a mile or a 5K type race in open water, and then once they do it, they kind of get hooked. And I know of several adults I have now who are elite in the triathlons and types of open water, master swimming that, might have been sprinters back in the day, or just, would have nothing to do with that kind of thing when they were teenagers. So, but these girls actually are already over the hump of fear. These are the type of girls that are not afraid. They're not afraid at all to train. I'm sure we've got girls like Lucy and Claire and Santa who are going to continue to move on, and many of them may well represent our country here in the not too distant future. This year we will be selecting age groups as young as 15 and under to go to the World Open Water Championships, and they're scheduled to be, I know everything's COVID, still, but they're scheduled to be in August, and they're going to be in the islands off of Africa, between Africa and, I'm blank, I've been there. Seychelles. The
Okay.
Seychelles.
Oh, interesting.
Just beautiful islands. They have really thousands of islands for that nation. They're a very sports-conscious country. They've hosted FINA World Open Water Championships, and so some of these girls could see themselves wearing the red, white, and blue this August out in Seychelles, doing the 5 or the 7.5K for us. So
no problem.
It's an exciting time for all of us that are involved in not just open water, but coming back from this COVID year and looking at the opportunities and praying that these kids all get a chance to step up and just give it their best. Just give it their best. So, in the water now, you'll see that's Lucy in the center of the pool getting ready to flip. This will be her third 500 complete, so she has 150 yards left now. That's her. Lucy's time was 14:41 at that point, so she still dropped another 7 seconds under on that 500, was a 4:53. Just keeps trucking along. And so does Claire. Her splits are very good. Claire Defoe's time coming in was a 16:20. Lucy was a 16:29. 3 lengths left with this flip turn, the last 75 yards for the ladies in the center of the pool. Should hear the bell here. There it is. 50 yards to go. Lucy right on track, another 29.4. Claire right behind her, 29.3. About 6 seconds separating the two girls at this point. And certainly Lucy's going to be dropping her time down, and Claire likely is going to be right on it, or a second or two below it if she gets it home here. Lucy touches first, 16:09.22. And Claire, yes, definitely much faster, 16:15.53. Great swims on both those girls. Very smart, very strategic. And third place does go to Sanna Peterson, 16:26. So it's also a nice drop for her of 7 or 8 seconds. So all these girls stepping it up. Fourth place going to Caitlin Russell. She's also from Nova. So Nova went 2, 3, 4, and they all went faster. Caitlin dropped 10 seconds. Fifth place, Allison Danko. She dropped 18. She's a 16:48. I love seeing all these time drops, Coach. Really makes it special. Allison Danko from Ole took the fifth with a 16:48. That's nice. Okay, there's everybody's times. You can see